Hello, hello, live Status Coup. It is Wednesday, November the 19th, 2025 in the United Corporations of America. And let's just say, I think we're headed there. DEFCON 1 is the worst. I think.
Yes.
I think we're rounding 2, headed for 1, if that's even possible. Joining me, the intrepid, brave, wonderful new reporter for Status Coup, JT Cestkowski, who's been doing God's work on the ground in Chicago and elsewhere for us. You kind of started before we even had a chance to really introduce you. So we're going to do a little, introduce yourself, name, favorite color, all that good stuff today so people can get to know you. But I was kind of first of all, smash the like button, share this live stream so we can get it out to more people. I apologize in advance. Colin is sick today, so I'm operating the live stream technically, which is never a good thing. So if there's any bumps and bruises along the way, that's because I am operating it. But Colin works a lot, so let him heal. Anyway, I was expecting kind of a somewhat relaxed day. And then I get a message from John this morning, John Farina, our wonderful roving video journalist, that Border Patrol just threatened to arrest him. So I called him. He explained what happened. I'm sure it's not a surprise to you because you've been up and close with the Border Patrol, ICE, for the last two months in Chicago, that it seems they have a very interesting interpretation of the law. As in make it up as we go along. Yeah. So we'll go through that footage, which is just unbelievable. And to be clear, ICE, Border Patrol are monitoring with that $250 million budget, $250 billion, excuse me. Mm-hmm. They are monitoring outlets. So it's very clear to me they monitor us. Right. So I don't know if they're watching now, but they might see some of this. I welcome your hatred, as FDR once said. But we have that. There's also, we've been very busy covering the secret police and the stormtroopers, so it's been a little difficult to stay up on, this Epstein saga, which is a full-blown cover-up. But we are going to get into that a little bit, and we want to go through our most recent clips from Chicago, now on the ground in Charlotte, and beg you, if I must, to support us as paying members because we need to grow. Already got one. Welcome, new Status Coup member, Sunset's Little Funny Farm. So I will be promoting that throughout the show. Full disclosure, I looked this morning and I have heartburn to prove it. We're rounding towards almost 15 grand we've spent over the last 2 months with JT and John on the ground in Chicago, now Charlotte. We've hired a few freelancers when John had to go home to replace him. You were the one there. Flights, hotel, car, gas, food, safety equipment. It really adds up. And then on top of that, people might not be aware, but when we live stream for you were live for 6 hours or so, 6.5 hours. That's way past our data plan. So we're going to be getting a hefty bill today. Not today, soon. My guess is we're getting an overcharge for about $1,000 for going over that data plan. So the revolution will not be televised or cheap, shall we say. So I understand it's tough times for everyone, but if it's within your budget, all we're asking for is as low as 16 cents a day. That's statuscoup.com/join, 16 cents a day. All right, we'll get to a little intro of you a little bit later. I want to build up the audience, but let's start. We posted this earlier, but John and another photojournalist, John's on the ground in Charlotte. He was live last night as ICE and Border Patrol are basically just spreading their terror around. He was live outside a Latin bakery that has been shut down for the first time in 20-something years because employees are afraid. So it was a great live stream. He's going to be live again tonight on the ground at 7 o'clock Eastern. The guy's a machine. The guy's an absolute machine. He doesn't sleep. So definitely, once this live stream ends, we'll be going straight. This page will go straight to that live stream so you guys can have it up and waiting for 7 o'clock. But this morning, he and another journalist were doing what you guys did in Chicago, what other journalists have been doing, which is just tracking. You can use the phrase following ICE and Border Patrol, but you kind of have to follow them to be able to film them.
Oh yeah,
it's legally protected. You're not, you're not like up their vehicle's ass. You're not assaulting them. You're not doing anything other than following them. And they're government officials. So, what they do is public, whether they like it or not. This is what happened when John and another photojournalist were covering Border Patrol agents who were basically circling, looking for brown people in Southeast Charlotte.
Hey. Nope, we're just driving around.
Okay. Are you both press?
Press.
Where's his badge?
He's got it on.
It's not visible, is it?
It is.
I don't see it.
It's there. Oh, under his jacket.
So he says you'll be arrested for following him?
Following?
That's what he said.
So that might seem kind of like harmless. It's not. And there's multiple laws being violated there. But let's start, John. First, I want to say, why are they even asking for their press badges? It's not illegal, even if they're not press.
No, I don't understand a lot of what is happening here just because of how arbitrary it is. We were following ICE and Border Patrol down in Chicago. We did that all the time. I mean, Jordan, you were privy to what we were doing when we were down there on the ground. I mean, how many different days did we tell you that we were out looking for ICE or Border Patrol out in these neighborhoods? And how many times are we successful in finding them? They make no secret of where they are. They try to, in the way that they, and we'll get to some of this too a little bit later, the way that they try to obfuscate like their license plates and what vehicles they're driving. But once they're out there in the community, they attract attention. And they actually, at least when Greg Bavino is leading them, they love the media attention. Like Greg will like let reporters walk right up with the cameras and all of that. So on the one hand, it's kind of like, what the hell was this about? This does not track with the way that you usually are such sycophants for the camera, the way that you love to mug and pose yourselves and try to look tough in front of the camera. So now you're going to go off and harass these reporters. It makes me curious if they knew that it was John that was following, just because our coverage has been, so intense. We don't do the both sides ism here of the pain that Border Patrol is inflicting. And the other thing is that, with Border Patrol being out in these communities, the way that they have been enforcing and conducting themselves has also been so arbitrary. The rules in which they will deploy tear gas, for example, in neighborhoods is just so hair trigger. And the people in Chicago that I talked to over those weeks and weeks that we've been out there would tell me, would speak about how frustrated they were. They did not feel that there were clear rules about when people were getting arrested by Border Patrol or when Border Patrol was deploying tear gas, that there were never clear rules that were established that people could follow. It was just purely like, what mood did Border Patrol wake up in today?
Right. And the other thing is, they're citing some U.S. U.S. 18 Code 111. Number one, I mean, they're basically getting these people off the street. A lot of these ICE and Border Patrol agents, they're like, cop academy dropouts, taking some of them straight out of the gym. I don't want to be an asshole, but they're not really vetting these people and throwing around $50,000 bonuses. So I don't really know if any of these people know the law or they're being given wrong information. I won't bore you with the details, but this is the code that Border Patrol agent cited to John and the other photojournalist. 18 Code 111, assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. Well, you don't have to be a rocket science. There was no assault. There's no resisting. I mean, they were driving behind them. And I don't really know what the impeding would be other than impeding you from doing this, in the dark, impeding you from basically doing this, hiding what you're doing. So it's completely laughable. Of course, we reached out to a lawyer just to kind of cover. I had no reason to think we did anything wrong, but just to kind of cover our bases. Here's what we were told. This is from Weston Rowland. He was involved in a lawsuit we participated on against the LAPD in LA, who were firing rubber bullets and shooting at journalists, including our Tina Desiree Berg. Weston told us, by pulling over a news crew that was lawfully filming them and threatening arrest if they continued, ICE agents crossed a clear constitutional line. And when officers use a traffic stop with no valid basis to shut down that coverage, they also risk violating the Fourth Amendment's ban on unreasonable seizures. This isn't just heavy-handed, it's unconstitutional. The First Amendment protects the right of the press and the public to observe and record government officials in public without retaliation. I think that part and the public kind of goes to what I said at the beginning. I mean, why are they even asking for our badges? Like, it's not illegal if we were just, Joe and Jane six-pack driving behind ICE and Border Patrol. But yeah, I mean, luckily nothing happened, but how much of this stuff is happening that we don't know about? That's not going out there. Of course, how many of the kidnappings, of the abductions are happening where we don't have somebody nearby to film it, this and that. We assume there will be kind of reconciliation after the chaos ends. Maybe when there's a new administration, maybe there'll be some prosecutions.
Yeah.
Who knows how many people are going to be wrongly deported by then? Who knows how many people are going to be terrorized by then? How many people are going to be traumatized by then? We're not asking for violins here. John's a tough guy, but basically they are harassing. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that they will just start arresting journalists, particularly if Trump incites the Insurrection Act, which he has been hinting at. And based on the other story we're going to cover, Epstein, he's looking for some way to distract. And there would be no better way to distract than essentially martial law. Let's do the Insurrection Act. I want to show this other clip. After John was threatened, he was not done. He would not be deterred. So they continued following Border Patrol. And again, they're legally allowed to do it. And it just got like this bizarre scene, not too far from where this traffic stop happened, it looks like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Border Patrol, ICE to pull over one guy.
Yeah.
We blurred out this guy's face, and they're near a shopping mall. It's not clear whether they're also going in the shopping mall to kind of snatch up brown people, which they've done elsewhere. Let's show you this.
He's all around the point of the okay. All right. Go play.
We on stalemate right now. Just looking. Everybody has a stare on.
Bitch. 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 Exactly. They don't got no beef, nothing. Watch the car.
I don't want my face on your videos on any internet.
Man, y'all guys must be ashamed of what you're doing. Have your faces covered.
Y'all be safe out there.
Walk around with covered faces. Bum ass.
That just shows you're ashamed of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Bum ass.
You can't walk around without a mask.
Sad.
You ain't even that cold yet. Get out from the community. Get the fuck out of here. Get off from the community. Give the people over, motherfucker. Come on, get the fuck out of here.
It's just hold on. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And I just want to point this out as you have this like SEAL Team 6 level of people. And it's very jarring to me that they're wearing like the American flag. I don't know if it's like the Blue Lives Matter logo or like Patriot Front or something, but they're all wearing American flags as they essentially act as like SS troopers, if you ask me. But what's remarkable about this, all of this is happening while like there's actually a crisis in America, like a real crisis. It's called the Gilded Age. I mean, there's just a couple things here. U.S. grocery prices have hit a record high. The monthly cost for a family of four is now $1,030 a month. You got a newborn, John. You know how expensive it is. So $1,030. Americans now need 70% higher income than 6 years ago to comfortably afford a medium-priced home. The U.S. housing market is at its most unaffordable point in history. I mean, that's just 2 bullet points there. I could give you more, but I don't want to depress people. Bottom 60% of U.S. households don't make enough money to afford a minimal quality of life. According to a new analysis in May, hiring it is at its lowest level since 2009. Serious credit card delinquencies climbed to highest level in 14 years. There was a revision that showed 1.2 million fewer jobs were created over the last 16 months than the government reported. Late rental payments skyrocketing, U.S. foreclosures up significantly, homelessness hit a record high last year, surge of Americans living in RVs. I mean, I could go on, JT, but the bottom line is this is what we're spending all our resources in.
$250 billion of your money, Jordan.
To terrorize fucking, immigrants. And by the way, they're not just terrorizing immigrants. They're terrorizing U.S. citizens. Not that it matters. It's not okay if they're doing immigrants either. But, I mean, literally, we have where we are now, I think is actually getting worse than the Gilded Age of the 1920s because AI is going to make it worse because we're basically going to replace the humans with robots. But putting that aside, all of this is going on. And if you're watching MAGA, they fooled you into thinking the greatest threat is like the fucking Hispanic guy working at the bakery. Your thoughts?
Somebody just trying to scratch out a living is the greatest threat to the country. In fact, in that clip that we just played, I was very heavy-handed with the blur, so I don't know how much of it comes across to somebody who hasn't seen the unblurred video. But that guy who's behind the wheel of the truck, he's white, but he clearly got profiled because he's a day laborer of some kind, or at least presents that way. I mean, he's driving the pickup truck. This video was taken in the morning. He's driving the pickup truck. He's got a high vis shirt on. So that's who they're targeting. They're looking for people who are out there trying to just make a living, not out there looking for the hardened criminals or trying to run down leads or do any sort of like serious investigative work that's happening behind the scenes where then they can go in and just do a targeted raid somewhere. No, these agents are out patrolling streets in these massive convoys where they need to have, 9 vehicles to pull over one truck with a day laborer in it, just to be sure that person is, in this case, harassed, but in the worst case scenario is abducted and disappeared, and their family never knows what happened to them. They disappear, their income disappears, that family struggles and just continues to add to those statistics that you just showed, Jordan, of all of this economic suffering across the country right now. Because that was something that we heard about in all these neighborhoods in Chicago, is that everybody talked about, even like some of the like Trump voters who we talked about, like they would be like, I voted for Trump because he was going to fix the economy, but all of these raids in my neighborhood have absolutely cratered our hyper local economy here. All of our small businesses are closing or aren't open right now. There's no economic activity happening, period, in some of these communities.
Reminder, smash the like button, folks. And please, if you appreciate this work, do you see this kind of reporting on CNN? Do you see it on whatever MSNBC is called now? What MS
Now?
Oh boy,
I'm a real fan.
New York Times, Washington Post. Come on. And by the way, it's not that they can't do it, because there, as you could tell us, John, and you have JT, and there are local reporters in these communities, but they're kind of just like taking comments from ICE and Border Patrol and doing like, ICE says this, the people say this, we're neutral, you fucking figure it out. Or they're at the protest, but they're kind of hanging in the back, like tweeting while we're getting tear gassed. Okay. So if you want living, breathing reporting, and I'm all about redistribution in this case, because you might be spending, I don't know, $5-10 a month on burnt coffee at Starbucks. No disrespect to my union brothers and sisters. The coffee's not that good. It's mostly just fucking like, their little syrups they put in, a lot of ice with like a little cream. Anyway, you could redistribute it. You could redistribute that $5 to $10 a month to actual living, breathing journalism. And if you can't support us financially, no worries. But there's a lot of outlets. JT, you get them. I mean, nonprofits, news outlets, politicians in your email box constantly begging you for money, saying we're leading the fight against fascism. They're all sitting in a fucking cubicle eating fucking Tostitos and, bloviating out of their behinds. Everyone's an influencer these days. There's very few people actually out there on the ground. And JT, not to toot your own horn, you got a 2-month-old. I have a 6-month-old. It's hard for me. I have 2 kids right now. It's very hard to be on the ground for 2 days, much less 4 or 5 like you've been. And you're doing that with a 2-month-old because you care and you understand the importance of this. So please, folks, support us. Speaking of, shout out, new Status Coup member just signed up, David, Chicago Liberty, it says, Sherry, and Jessica. So they signed up through the website. Thank you. And thank you, Sunset Little Funny Farm signed up. Kimmy gifted a YouTube membership. And Tyler gifted a YouTube membership. And why this is very important, and I'll just be very clear, folks. Most other outlets are funded by having a corporate parent. MS Now is owned by Comcast. CNN is owned by, I think, Warner Bros. For the minute until they sell. New York Times has, insane investors. We are funded by you. We had a small investor in the beginning, 50 grand that went out the door just for equipment. We did a GoFundMe that over 5 years raised like $200,000. We spent that as we went. We've had like some other funding that's relatively small for what we have done, but we don't have any funding from Goldman Sachs. We don't have any funding from United Healthcare or Meta or X or big tech or defense contractors. Our funding comes from you. And it's extremely expensive to be on the ground to do this kind of work. And also, you have to understand, we're all pretty much working 6-7 days a week. Colin, I had to force him to, called out sick today because he's been working 6-7 days a week for God knows how long. Our new producer, Michelle, is working around the clock because we don't have enough staff. And I could have taken shortcuts. In the last 3 weeks, we've had offers from 2 potential corporate advertisers. Both times I turned it down. Not because I'm opposed at all to any advertisements, but we're not going to we're not doing advertisements for like healthcare companies hawking Medicare Advantage, which was one of them. We're not doing advertisements for like a company that avoids identity theft, but it's all AI and the reviews are horrible. So there's a lot of outlets that will just take that money. I have not, which is harder. It is harder not to take the money. So I hope you appreciate it. StatusCoup.com/join. I also want to show this because I think this kind of gets to the root that they are just literally making up the law. This is lead stormtrooper Greg Bavino. I don't think he's not that smart. I don't know if he realized that he was kind of acknowledging that they're just going around fishing at this point. But this is what he said on Fox News, responding to the North Carolina governor, basically saying that they're out just randomly racially profiling and just snatching, random landscapers hanging up Christmas trees.
Well, I put a lot of the blame on our elected leadership here in North Carolina, especially that governor that says those things that are outright lies.
Yeah, and he's continuing to say them as well. Take a look at what he posted on X on the weekend.
We've seen masked, heavily armed agents and paramilitary garb driving unmarked cars, targeting American citizens based on their skin color, racially profiling and picking up random people in parking lots and off of our sidewalks, going after landscapers simply decorating a Christmas tree in someone's front yard, and entering churches and stores to grab people.
But what do you say to the governor?
John, again, almost everything he said is a lie. Those individuals hanging Christmas lights, how does that governor know what the criminal record is of that individual hanging Christmas lights? Oftentimes we find these so-called hard workers have significant criminal history, such as child rape, aggravated assault, drug traffickers, and many other crimes.
I mean, by that standard, they no disrespect to anyone watching, they should just go to a NASCAR race, hang out in the crowd. Plenty of people who do bad things, shoplift, maybe beat their wives, drunk drive. I could go on, not just NASCAR races. I mean, go to any sporting event in America, go to any concert. How do you know that they're not criminals? Well, there's laws against just randomly inspecting people to find out if they're criminals. And why would you think the random landscaper is a criminal other than he's brown?
Yeah, that's how you know that so much of this is also just like a PR blitz for the Trump administration and the way that Bavino is conducting himself. Because at least in Chicago, I remember telling you, Jordan, in those first few weeks that I was down there, picking out a few events that were coming up. There was like playoff baseball that was happening at that time. The Red Sox were playing the Brewers in some really high stakes games. And I was all gung-ho telling John, like, we need to go down there by those games, or the Chicago Marathon was coming up. We need to go down there and see what Border Patrol does at these events. But they never showed up at those places. If it truly could be anybody, then go anywhere and talk to anyone. But that's almost like the thing that just belies so much of how you know that how much of this is profiling is those places that they choose to be and actually devote their resources to checking out, because there never was random checks at the Red Sox game. There never was random checks at the Chicago Marathon. Wouldn't want to try and sully these things that are high profile events that might, tarnish the Trump administration's image in the eyes of its own voting bloc by targeting playoff baseball. No, you want to target these places that are these neighborhoods that are predominantly brown people, these careers that are disproportionately employ people of color. That's how you know. Without them having to say anything or get any Supreme Court ruling. I mean, you can just watch the way we did on the ground, actually watch the ways and the tactics that they're employing.
And welcome new Status Coup member. It says concerned citizen. So whatever your name is, thank you for being a concerned citizen. And now a Status Coup member. And by the way, I should say, as a member, you get perks. We're trying to do our monthly members call tomorrow night, if everything agrees and everyone's not sick. Because right now, Colin, our editor, and Michelle, our editor producer, are both sick. So I'm not going to make them, be on the call or set up the call if they're sick. And we've been trying to do the call, but fascism is 24/7, and we've been on the ground for every day for like almost 2 months. But as a member, we do monthly members calls. That's a video call, kind of give you updates, have a few behind the scenes updates you might want to know. You get behind the scenes videos, and you get merchandise discounts too from our store. So please, again, if you can, statuscoup.com/join. By the way, I don't have the clip, but this is on top of Bavino saying he's on Fox News like 6 times a day. He might as well be fucking, working with them. Well, basically it's Fox News, so he is. But he also said that they don't, one of the justifications for what they're doing is these people are stealing U.S. jobs. So it went from Trump on the campaign trail, 2016, 2020, 2024. We're going after the bad hombres, as he said. We're going after the worst of the worst. Then it went to, oh, they're all here illegally, so we're just going to go after all of them. Now it's if they steal our jobs. Well, Pavino, first of all, that's not a legal rationalization. You can't go arresting people you think are stealing your jobs. And if you want to go arrest the people that stole the jobs, go arrest the politicians and the Wall Street crooks, because they're the ones that wrote these trade deals that sold all the jobs to other countries. It's not the fucking person working at the bakery or Home Depot, etc. But if you care so much about jobs being stolen, then run for office, which is clearly his next plan, because he's a camera whore and he's got a major Napoleon complex. I don't know how tall he is, but seems pretty fair. But what's incredible to me about all this, and I'm going to take my glasses off for this and show a little rage, JT, so I hope you don't get scared. I never heard Bavino, Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, all these MAGA sycophants, Nick Fuentes, Benny, whatever his name is, that goes around giving blowjobs to Kristi Noem, doing, propaganda tours for Kristi Noem. I never heard Benny Johnson. I never heard any of these people worried about the other criminals, the Wall Street bankers that tanked the global economy, to which many in the audience have never recovered 15 years ago, the fossil fuel CEOs who illegally dump crude oil, tar sands oil in major waterways in America, poisoning Americans' water, poisoning the water of sacred lands of indigenous people. Never heard a word about those criminals. I wonder why. Maybe it's because they're not brown. Never heard a word from any of these fucks about the Sacklers, those crooks who poisoned killed hundreds of thousands of Americans with their Oxycontin, and they got off with a settlement, which is a fart in the wind to these crooks. Never heard a thing about Elon Musk and the damage he's done. He's literally was allowed, given the keys to the kingdom by your president, MAGA, to steal our Social Security data, to steal private data that is supposed to be HIPAA protected too, healthcare data too, and fucking purge the U.S. government. He's committed so many crimes, you can't even see straight. I mean, I could go on. The defense contractors. And by the way, it's not just Republican presidents that have gotten away with this shit. Democratic presidents have looked the other way. Remember, Obama, when he came in, let's not look backwards at Cheney and Bush for launching the illegal Iraq war that killed 500,000 to 1 million Iraqis, killed a lot of terrorized brown people around the world, not to mention U.S. soldiers. So you only care about the crime committed by brown people, which, by the way, crossing the border undocumented is a misdemeanor. It's not an actual crime. Why is that, Jay? Am I barking up the wrong tree? It seems like they only care about, shall we say, brown collar crime, inventing a word, but they don't care about, the corporate crimes that are actually poisoning the entire government and poisoning the masses and are creating a new Gilded Age. Not to mention, how many of these people were talking about Epstein before Trump? The potential global pedophilia ring before Trump came in. Your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is a concern for your health, Jordan. You're telling us all the time about how you're not sleeping, and then to see your blood pressure rise like that. I'm not your doctor, but I would encourage you to take a walk and maybe just allow me to.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's in here, John.
Okay, so
it's water. It's water. It's water. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, I mean, I mean, yeah, it's like it's always clearly like divide and distract, right? Like, because if you actually had a united working class movement here in the country that recognized the true villains in this country for who they are, you would begin to identify a lot of common themes for the people who are causing the greatest harm. And it's the people who have the greatest wealth and the greatest resources at their disposal that can create harm at the greatest scale. Can't go after those people because, as you say, Elon Musk giving the keys to the kingdom. He's given the keys to the kingdom after he donates millions upon millions of dollars to Trump's reelection.
Excuse me. Nearly $300 million, not millions upon millions. Go on.
But thank you for that correction. So I mean, if you can't go after the hand that feeds you, so to speak. So you have to divide the people because their power is in their numbers. So you have to give them somebody else to hate. And in this case, why not brown people and just make people afraid of each other based on the colors of their skin and create victim complexes that way, so that, you know, the proverbial gun of the masses is never pointed at you, the millionaires and the billionaires, so that you can go on polluting waters, polluting lands, killing people, distributing drugs that actively harm them, oppressing them, denying them the due compensation for their labor. You can go on doing all that and continuing to enrich yourself, so that way you can take an extra month-long vacation in Acapulco or wherever you want to go.
And let's be very clear, because, you know, you don't have to be a rocket science. And you've seen this. You've seen the tweets from DHS. You've seen the propaganda videos. They're using, I wouldn't even call it coded language. No. I wouldn't even call it dog whistles.
No.
They're doing like full-scale banners, defend the homeland. I mean, the homeland. This is white nationalist talk. Defend the homeland. Stop the invasion. This is not even subtle what they are trying to imply. And there's a lot of problems, and I'm not here, you know, listen, this is not like a Vote Blue channel. I don't care. You vote for whoever you want. But we could have been more profitable, and we probably would be at 2-3 million subscribers if we would have just picked a side a long time ago and just done straight blowjobs to Trump or straight blowjobs to the Democratic Party. And excuse my French, everybody. I know I'm a little crass. But we say they're all corrupt. I'm not going to lie to you. Would I rather a Democrat right now than fucking, you know, Orange Mussolini? Yeah, I would. Am I telling you to vote for Democrats? No, because I think Democrats are who got us in this mess by offering fucking 40 years of crumbs and trying to dress that up as, you know, cake. But the bottom line is this is how, you know, I was not alive, obviously, but if you just know your history, this is how, you know, periods like Germany, 1930s and 40s begin, because you have such a downtrodden society. Not just economically, but spiritually, right? After World War I, Germany's economy was in tatters. Not just Germany, a lot of the surrounding countries too. And you have somebody like Hitler who just brilliantly, although evilly, brainwashes a populace to basically think it's this species over here's fault. And when people are angry, when people are desperate, I'm not defending the Germans who went along with this, but when people are angry, they are susceptible to find an other. And we saw that in 2015, 2016. It might have been underneath festering this sentiment, but I have been on disappearing middle class reporting trips. I have seen whole communities just hollowed out in the deindustrialized Midwest. I've seen shopping centers with no stores and just lawns that are as tall as trees.
Yep.
I've seen plants closed down, not just in the Midwest, by the way, this is around the country. I have been to, at this point, 30 to 40 cities over the last 10 years. And the distance between the mansions and like the hood, so to speak, in some places is only 7 to 10 minutes. Detroit, Flint, Cleveland, Milwaukee, we could go on. I'm sure you've seen some of it too.
Yeah.
So
up close.
Yeah. And then you pour gasoline on that fire, which is partisan tribal media, which distracts, brainwashes, distorts, lies, and revs people up to basically blame it on some other group. Now, we could have a debate about borders and whether you think we need a tighter border, this and that. That's legitimate. But you can't really have a debate about, what is the greater threat to the country? A corrupt government that is built on a system of legalized bribery, which Princeton University 11 years ago came out saying, we're not a democracy, we're an oligarchy. Or the guy working at the bakery, the guy working at Home Depot, or girl working at Home Depot, or 7-Eleven, or the landscaper. It's just incredibly, forget the morality, which is so depraved. It's just so incredibly stupid. And it's sad. I mean, it's sad because before you're a leftist or a conservative, I think it's just more simple. Are you're raised either to believe in right or wrong. And what we're seeing is wrong. And I, as a father too, I'm worried about the children. We've seen children tear gassed. Yep. We've seen children having to watch their preschool teacher dragged out in Chicago. You covered that. Yep. It's just.
Or a kid sitting in the backseat of a car yelling to the Border Patrol agent, please don't do anything, because they're pointing a weapon straight at his mother. The video that John got.
Right. But, family values first.
Yeah.
It's there. And keep those memberships coming, baby. Now we're moving. This is what I'm talking about, JT. I'm always up JT's ass. Give me more passion. I said when I hired him, I don't want another me, but I do want someone to be a little loud from time to time. And if we're not loud, who's going to be loud? Seriously. Welcome new member Miranda. And through our website, Teresa just signed up. So welcome, Teresa. Really, really appreciate it. All right. I want to show you a couple more clips from our on-the-ground reporting. This one actually is not from JT. We got this from another reporter because, unfortunately, and MS Now won't tell you this, you got some complicit Democrats here who are basically doing the bidding of ICE. So Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, he's very quick to get in front of a camera and pretend he's fighting the good fight. But he's been allowing his state troopers to assault, attack, tear gas, shoot rubber bullets at people. This is from November 14th. So last Friday at the ICE prison. I don't even like calling it a detention center because that implies due process. It's a prison. They're without due process. They're just holding these people. Yeah. But this is some of really horrific scenes that happened at the Broadview Detention Center.
The village of Broadview declares a civil emergency following threats against village officials.
I'm not trying to make things hard for Broadview. I'm trying to make things hard for ICE.
One protester who only wants to be identified as Ian says he was hit tonight by someone he says was threatening protesters. Video of the incident was shared with WGN.
At the time, had a cigarette in my mouth, and another gentleman grabbed it out of my mouth and threw it in the ground. And then a few moments later, he smacked me in the face. The open hand hit me right in the jaw right there.
The village of Broadview says threats to village officials have grown since this past Friday, when a clash between protesters and law enforcement outside the ICE processing facility led to 21 arrests and injuries to 4 members of law enforcement.
Our community has turned into a war zone. They're coming from out of our districts. They're coming from wherever they're coming from. But I live here in Broadview, and we're not going to tolerate it.
When you see agents dispersing tear gas or chemical minutia or rubber pellets, what do you call it? It's unacceptable. We don't need to be policed. We know how to maintain. We know how to treat people with dignity. We know how to treat people with respect. And they have not done that to the people that's coming to visit, to protest peacefully for something that they believe in. And I believe in freedom of expression. You know, I have a voice, and they have a voice when they come in.
So that is at the ICE prison right outside Chicago. There has been a back and forth, which you could update us on, that upwards of 600 prisoners were to be released. As of now, it seems that 4, correct me if I'm wrong, are left inside that prison.
Yeah, it's 4 who are inside.
There's also been lawsuits over the heinous conditions inside, which we've seen at other ICE prisons, including Alligator Alcatraz, which we've covered. But that's kind of been ground zero for the protests in Chicago. Right, that's right outside of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But what's remarkable to me about that, you have, I mean, J.B. Pritzker, it's not a secret, he's going to run for president. He's in control of the Illinois state troopers. Also, that mayor at the end who claims she loves free speech, she's the one who in that town has created free speech zones where protesters are kind of packed like sardines. They could only protest in this little corner over here. And she created a protest curfew. But that's all stuff also under J.B. Pritzker's purview. He could kind of tell the mayor, let them protest if they're being peaceful. He could push to allow them to be right outside, right next to ICE. Mm-hmm. As long as they're not doing anything violent, they should be allowed to protest on public property right outside the ICE prison. And this has been going on for weeks. I mean, how many live streams have you done? One was 6.5 hours, where it's not just ICE. It's not just Border Patrol assaulting the people. It's the cops under a Democratic governor.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's such a demonstration of cowardice in leadership because J.B. Pritzker wants to get up and say, on the one hand, decries what's happening in Broadview, decries the occupation of the city of Chicago, as he should, will file a lawsuit against the Trump administration to keep the National Guard from being deployed in that state, being nationalized and put on the streets. Though what difference that really makes to me is not clear, considering how militarized Border Patrol and ICE and all of those DHS agents are. Basically already have the military, have de facto military members on the streets because they're armed with all the same fucking weapons and equipment that soldiers are anyway. They're already out there, but you're doing nothing in effect to try and stand up to that, to empower these protesters in a responsible way to go out and exercise their First Amendment rights. Instead, you're trying to shove them in a corner because it's very clear to me what the Pritzker administration wants in Illinois is they're acknowledging that the Trump administration is looking for any excuse whatsoever to send the military onto American city streets, as we have heard reported they are want to do by this coming spring. But they just very much don't want that wherever that excuse happens, which they say is going to happen anywhere. They just don't want it to happen in their backyard. They don't want to be to blame because when Pritzker stands up and runs for president, he doesn't want to be the state or the leadership that is to blame for the Trump administration sending troops into streets. So it will happen. Just please don't let it happen here, and we will curtail as many rights as we need to make sure that we are not the excuse so that I look good for my future presidential run.
And part of the problem, you essentially have very little media, corporate or independent, frankly, that just tell it straight. I mean, listen, it's easy to just go after Trump all day, and you should. We do. But to just ignore when either directly or indirectly the opposition party is enabling it is a disservice to the audience. And there's channels much, much bigger than us. And every video is Trump, Trump, Trump. Some of them I even like. Some of them I watch. But, I mean, they should be calling this out too because this has the effect. You know, I covered Standing Rock, for example. I mean, people are humans. At first, during a movement, you got people revved up and people are willing to, kamikaze this shit. But after a while, you get arrested, you get assaulted, other threats. You become a little deterred from coming out as much, particularly if there's economic ramifications to you and your family, because it ain't cheap if you get arrested or if you're facing flimsy charges. So this is not how you fight fascism. And frankly, Pritzker should tell the state troopers, you do nothing but stand there and make sure nobody gets hit by a car. And if a protester has a weapon or something like that, obviously you get involved. But other than that, let them protest. So in my view, it's very shameful what's going on. And speaking of a little update, we kind of expected this, but there's been a back and forth between the Trump administration, who will just appeals everything, and that has the effect of delaying. But originally, we saw a federal judge in Chicago place an injunction against the Trump administration, Border Patrol, ICE, to stop releasing tear gas, to stop tear gassing, pepperballing journalists, protesters. They violated that over and over again. So it was kind of like a ruling that had no enforcement. The judge didn't hold any Border Patrol or ICE in contempt of court for violating their court order. They would hold me and JT in contempt of court and throw us in jail if we violated. With Trump, they just brought in Greg Bavino to court and kind of gave him an embarrassing slap on the wrist. But the Trump administration appealed that. Again, it doesn't matter because Border Patrol and ICE weren't following it anyway. But the Seventh Circuit U.S. Appeals has stayed Judge Sarah Ellis's preliminary injunction, which restricted the Fed's use of force in Chicago. The appeals court says her order is overbroad, but warns, do not overread today's order. I love that part.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the Supreme Court when they stole the presidency for George W. Bush. Don't use this ruling as precedent for any other ruling.
Yeah.
So I don't know your thoughts because you've been following the legal case. To me, it's kind of a distinction without a difference because
it is like one a lot of the federal agents have left Chicago, so this order really doesn't cover. I mean, Greg Bavino's gone. His tactics are largely gone from the city of Chicago. There are still ICE agents in that city who are still picking people up. Don't mistake me there. But the idea that like tear gas is now just going off in random communities or people are being gunned down by federal agents is not an everyday occurrence or threat in the way that it was when Bavino and all of the Border Patrol agents and everybody he brought along with him were there and the tactics that they were carrying out. So the fact that this is really repealed at this point doesn't make a huge difference, but we have heard that Bavino and a lot of those agents are going to return to Chicago. So where this order ends up is important because the federal government is likely to return in some capacity come this spring. So exactly where things land is kind of important. But I mean, putting a stay on the order, which essentially just makes it open season again for what Border Patrol can do in that community, is only bad. And to the extent that they say, oh, don't read into this, implying that, oh, we're still going to put some limitations on Border Patrol. Don't take this as carte blanche. I mean, to me, it's still that distinction without a difference. If you're not willing to punish, actually have some sort of teeth about how you're going to follow through and hold these government agents accountable for not following this judge's orders, then it doesn't fucking matter what the court rules or doesn't rule. Just go out and continue to break the rules and say, I'm so sorry whenever you get called into court to get another stern talking to from the judge.
And I think that's an important point, and I'll stress this again. You know, we call out the Democratic Party for weak opposition. You also have to point out the judges here. I mean, I'm not saying the legal system was some bastion of wonderfulness before Trump. I mean, I've always said we have three legal systems, one for rich white people, one for what's left of the working class, and the third is for Black, brown, and indigenous people. But I mean, what is a court order if you could just violate it and the penalty is like you have to come back to court and explain why you're violating this? I mean, that's a joke. If there's video of them tear gassing journalists and protesters, if there's video of them shooting in sniper position from the rooftop of this ICE prison, after you have said no, then they're going to keep doing it unless some people get thrown in jail. Now, devil's advocate could say, well, Jordan, they're afraid because, Trump's an authoritarian and the Supreme Court. Okay, then let's all just fucking, fold up the tent and surrender.
Yeah.
Because that's what judges are supposed to be for. That's what the law is supposed to be for. But these judges, in my opinion, have been pretty weak sauce. I want to show some other heinous stuff from Border Patrol that only we are getting. Again, we are one of the only outlets on the ground. And just so you know, to be on the ground like a reporter, a cameraman for a few days can cost $1,000, much less 2 months. So you're just seeing this appear on camera, but there's rent-a-cars, there's hotels.
We have to drive there. We have to sleep somewhere the night before that shot. We have to wake up. We have to eat breakfast somewhere. We have to actually, have all of the equipment to go out and actually do the shoot or the live, or the live broadcast. And then afterwards, there's all the equipment issues that we have to diagnose, and we have to go and get new equipment for. Then we got to eat lunch somewhere, and then we're looking for the next story that we have to go chase down. So we have to put gas in the car. Then we have to go and actually get that story, and then there's
we also should mention, like, we pay JT so he could eat and feed his family.
Oh yeah,
I need money, so there's like payroll, and again, we're not funded by Comcast. We don't have $1 billion corporate parent. We don't have. Our funding is from you. So again, I'm hoping, I believe show don't tell. We're showing you. And fortunately, YouTube does not like recommending or really pushing actual journalism. But the more that we have been, Midas Touches shouted us out a few times. We appreciate that. Kyle Kalinske. The more that bigger channels shout us out, more people are finding out about us. Because part of the problem is it's just awareness. There's way too much content out there. It's way too saturated. Everybody, their mother and their dog has a podcast. Everyone's an influencer now. It's all fucking nauseating, if you ask me. And it's hard to break through. So if you can't support us financially, you can spread the word. You can do that, that there is actual reporting going on. Let me show you this. Literally, Border Patrol, I don't know why, they said this woman assaulted them at a gas station. Find that very hard to believe, considering she's handicapped and uses a walker.
He jacked up on his Adderall. He took extra. He already told us.
How come you can't? You guys have videos, right? Get a fucking phone number. No, you take care of yourself. I'm not, no obligation to just do nothing either. Just get a phone number. Have a fucking heart. Call their family.
This is illegal. You are racially profiling.
This is disgusting. There's no true words for it. It makes me feel absolutely sick, but I want to be here and I want to witness it. And, I read about this when I was in elementary school, reading Anne Frank's diary and A Number in the Stars. And it's becoming, it's real life now. And these are my friends. These are my neighbors. These people go to my child's school, and my biggest thing is I want you to know I'm there for them. I'm there for anyone that needs it in any way that I can possibly be. I will not turn a blind eye to this ever.
Kind of tell me how you got here, what you saw, why you came to this location.
I am subscribed to all the alerts. So I saw the alert. I was driving through the area. I saw one lady standing with a Caucasian lady standing with Border Patrol. So I just wanted to make sure she was okay and see what was going on down here. So everyone that's in charge of these alerts, keep posting them because people are watching. We had probably 20 people show up just because of those alerts. And if I can see it, and I'm going to be there. And I am taking a training course so I know exactly what to say and how to help people the correct way.
What would be your message to ICE and Border Patrol?
I don't know how you can go to sleep at night. I don't know how you can. I come from a very different type of profession. I'm in the helping profession, so I could not imagine doing this to people. I couldn't imagine it. There's no way that I could sleep. There's no way that I could have children and go home thinking about what I've done to someone else's parent. And It's unacceptable. And just the simple fact that you don't have to have any type of significant, training, background, degree. We're luring people in with $50,000 sign-on bonuses. It's disgusting. And like I told the Latino Border Patrol, should be ashamed of yourself. And that's all it is. All I feel is disgust, and I hope that they feel shame, but I honestly don't think that they do. I will say at first when I heard they were coming to Charlotte, I was nervous because we are, North Carolina is conservative. Luckily, Charlotte is more liberal, and I think safety in numbers, and I do feel good about it after seeing how things went yesterday, seeing how quickly businesses are helping, delivering free groceries. People are standing up. People's schools, they're coming up with action plans. So truly, I hope that we can do what Chicago did and get them out of our city as quickly and as safely as possible. But I think they thought they were messing with a sleeping bee, but this is called the hornet's nest for a reason. And, various people out here, various ages, demographics, races, and I love to see it because either way, these are our family, these are our friends, and I think that's how we're going to come together as a community to protect them.
I would like you to say what you just texted me.
Yeah, I was pointing out to I couldn't contain myself watching that fucking clip and seeing Greg Bavino and all those agents standing there, arms clasped, kind of trying to look tough, posing. They've got one person arrested sitting on the ground there, and they've got all of these vehicles arrayed out.
I don't want to cut you off, but to be clear, according to John, who I trust, that woman said, "I'm handicapped and I can't walk without my walker." And you could see them lifting her. It seems like she didn't have movement in her legs, at least. So, they're arresting a handicapped woman. I'm not saying handicapped people can't commit crimes, but I don't know. I find it hard to believe, JT, that this woman assaulted them. And considering the scoreboard here, they've lied about pretty much every incident thus far.
Well, I know that I've seen a clip of her explaining why she thought she was detained, and she thought that it was just that Border Patrol basically didn't like the way that she was kind of just basically watching them essentially. So that was all. But that aside, I mean, it's just the way that they puff out their chests and they stand there and they pose, and you saw the local reporter there standing in front of the TV camera doing her stand up. Recording herself talking to the camera. They'll stay and they'll pose for all of this. They could have just picked up that person and left, but they stay. They love the media attention. So then why are you threatening one of our reporters with arrest for essentially giving you that coverage? It makes no internal sense for the way that they conduct themselves. Makes no fucking sense whatsoever. They, on the one hand, they love the cameras, love them, especially when it's the both sides kind of journalism that will allow them to say their piece and without any sort of real questioning of the Trump administration's narratives here. Love that kind of coverage. But as soon as it's a journalist who is offering actual critical and just tough coverage of what you're doing and demanding answers for the way that you're comporting yourself in these communities, then it's you're impeding our operations out here and we need to threaten you with arrest.
Greg Bavino, when I look at him, it almost looks like he feels like he has these delusions that he was just dropped into Normandy. You know what I mean? I'm storming the beaches of Normandy here to round up the brown illegals. I mean, it's so ridiculous. The guy's on Fox News 4-5 times. I mean, sometimes a day. He's clearly wants to run for some type of political office. And this is all, obviously it's not just ICE, Border Patrol. When you have police, I mean, they have our lives in their hands because they carry guns. And you're at the mercy of what is in these people's heads. Are they sane? Are they just? Are they, shoot now, think, ask questions later, which unfortunately has been the case with police in this country forever and ever. But, this is more like there's evil here. There's evil and immorality in these people. I'm pretty sure Greg Bavino deep down understands he's not exactly doing something good here. He's not exactly, fighting the good fight here. It's all just vile. I also want to show something within that clip, because again, there's so much, with the Trump flood the zone strategy, there's often so many illegal things going up. It's kind of hard to keep up. But ICE and Border Patrol have been doing this around the country. They are illegally covering up or switching out their license plates. Show you this.
See that license plate with the leaves? See that license plate with the leaves?
So they, glued leaves to their license plate to cover up their license plate. I don't think I would be pulled over if I covered up my license plate.
Mm-hmm.
They have been caught replacing their license plates with other cards, which is illegal in, I think, every state. But nothing happened. I mean, have you seen this kind of thing in Chicago?
Oh, yeah, all the time. So in Chicago, they would trade out vehicles, obviously, but they would also trade out license plates on those vehicles or send vehicles out with no license plates whatsoever. And then the most cynical version of it would be actually disguising vehicles to try and blend into largely Hispanic neighborhoods. There are some neighborhoods in the Chicago area that are mostly people of Mexican descent. So they would actually like plaster Mexican flags like on the hood of their car, or have like a little decal on the back or something like that, that would actually try to act as like camouflage. But yeah, that was something that was very common in Chicago, was the way that they would try to disguise these vehicles. And it was actually something that the activists down there, again, if you're talking about like local and state leaders completely obfuscating their duty as a way to actually stand up to the Trump administration in any meaningful sense, local activists were asking that local police enforce the actual laws about displaying license plates on the ICE agents' vehicles. But again, they would never get pulled over. They never got prosecuted in any meaningful sense. The police never attempted to intervene in anything that ICE was doing. And to the exact opposite, they would actually act as private security a lot of the time for those operations.
And I want to make a point. And again, if I'm coming on strong, it's intentional. JT, you're a recovering corporate media person.
Yeah.
So am I. You came out of local news. I hope the audience understands the amount of clips we're playing right now and the amount of content and news we are covering and often breaking. Most other places have double the staff for this.
Oh, way more than that, Jordan.
Like local news outlets.
Yeah.
Now, there's been layoffs of this and that. But local news outlets, your local ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, mainstream media outlets. I mean, we are a staff, myself, JT, Michelle, Colin, and John. That's 5 people, okay? For the amount of work we've been doing, which includes myself, Colin, Michelle, JT, I mean, most of us have been working 6-7 days a week. Even on our off days, we're still answering texts, doing this. That's how we're cranking out all this, because we have basically 4 or 5 people doing the job that normally I would say you have 10 to 15 people doing. Mm-hmm. So all of this output, it's kind of like a blessing and a curse, because if you grow, then the masses want more content and you need and more news, and you have to kind of feed that beast. Unfortunately, we're not growing at the rate where we're making millions of dollars that I can expand the staff that quickly. So I wanted to make the point that everything you're seeing is literally John getting off a plane in Charlotte and immediately going out and, finding Border Patrol, finding ICE. He's not stopping. It's JT. Once he gets to Chicago, it's, typically local media, mainstream media. Yeah, they'll cover 1 story a day, kind of take their time. Some of them work long hours, but they're not exactly in the trenches like we are. Yeah. So my point of all this is we are squeezing a shit ton of juice out of the orange, so to speak, with not a lot of resources. So that's why we're asking you to sign up. It's not so like I could make more money or JT could make more money or we could become millionaires. We're not in this. We're not going to be. We're trying to do more, expand, hire more people, and grow. And we need your support to do that. I really do, that we had journalism as a public service in this country. I wish the government provided actual money for real journalism. Usually, if outlets take government money, it's just state propaganda. And you have corporations that have hijacked the media in this country. So most of the news in this country is just both sides bullshit. He said this side says this, that side says this. We're neutral and objective, so you fucking figure it out. We're not pretending to be neutral. I'm not neutral to autocracy. I'm not neutral to fascism. The facts come first. That's where the journalism comes in. You could have a point of view as a journalist. You could have a political persuasion. We're progressive. But you have to have your facts right. Your facts have to come before anything else. And knock on wood, I mean, in 7 years, I can think of one major thing I've had to correct. That's it. So again, broken record, but this is why we're asking for your support. StatusCoup.com/join. Speaking of Bovino, I wanted to mention this, and I wanted to show this clip because I think it goes to what we're talking about here, that not only is all this just the height of stupidity, but it's kind of like these high school, those awful asshole jocks in high school that like in front of the girls were nice and sweet, but then in the locker room were like locker room talk and talking about them. But this is what, according to people in Chicago, this is what the head of Border Patrol was doing as he's going around terrorizing people. This is JT's interview.
Why are they surprised when they can't leave when they're doing their circus and there's a bunch of people watching what they want everybody to see them doing? Bovino specifically, I've seen him do that. We were behind him. There was about 20 vehicles. There was a lot of media. I don't know where I was in the line, but I know he was somewhere down there. We did a cut. I witnessed him through an alley. I stopped. He was there. He jumped out of the truck and he was making noises like a monster, jumping out, going, rah, okay? To women pushing a shopping cart with laundry, a man fixing his car in front of his home, okay? People taking off running, children hiding behind their mothers because Bovino thought that it was funny to be jumping out in the neighborhood like a monster.
I did some follow-up with her after that, Jordan, and got a location on where that was happening. That was at the intersection of 47th and Maplewood in the city of Chicago on November 6th. So we've got some information if we want to try and go after video of Bovino jumping out of a car saying "rawr." But I mean, just like he thinks this whole thing is a joke, right? He thinks that there is going to be no repercussions for what he does. It's why he can act like an asshole and jump out. He is a monster in the minds of people out there in Chicago. That Greg Bovino is, for kids, basically like the monster in your closet is Greg Bovino, who's going to come out in the middle of the night and eat you or steal your parents away or whatever it is. And he can act this way because he feels like there's going to be no repercussions ever for his actions. Not just forget about today under the Trump administration, but he seems to think that, going forward into the future, there is never going to be any sort of real reconciling with what has happened in these communities over the last several years, which probably speaks to either one, the authoritarianism of our current administration, that he seems to think that people with the Trump administration's worldview will just be in power forever, at least for the rest of his life, and probably speaks a lot about the fecklessness of the Democrats and their inability to mount a meaningful resistance and hold any sort of accountability. There was very little accountability after Trump left office the first time. I mean, ask any Democrat how they feel about Merrick Garland, and you'll know that, the former head of the DOJ. And it's just clear that this is all a big joke to him.
Right. And also you have to think about this. The slogan is "Make America Great Again." I mean, you might as well change it to "Mama, Make America Monsters Again." It would literally be correct. Because this isn't just being an asshole. This
Mama
is literally...
might actually speak to some of the other issues that Bovino has as well.
True. And Dada, who knows? But you're not just an asshole if you're getting your kicks making monster noises while terrorizing. Like that's borderline psychopathy. You know what I mean? That's like we've seen serial killers that kind of get off at killing people. I'm not saying it's a serial killer, but like this kind of mentality, and it kind of just gets the kicks of some old, Fox News viewers to treat people this way, because it kind of is that old school Jim Crow mentality, honestly. And it's not helping get grocery prices down. It's not helping with healthcare. It's not helping with education. It's not helping with save the planet, cut the military. But I mean, none of this is helping. It's all a distraction that is victimizing innocent people. So it's just awful. By the way, we're really humming here. I just want to shout out here. Sunset's Little Funny Farm signed up as a member. Kimmy gifted a membership. Tyler became a new Status Coup member. Susie became a new member. Miranda signed up. JJ, thank you. Pipo, new member. Graham signed up. And then through our website, Gary just signed up. Teresa, Concerned Citizen. David, Chicago Liberty, and Sherry. So this is what I'm talking about. If we could start getting, 20, 30 paid members every broadcast, we wouldn't have to be asking so much. But, Mama told me once, if you don't advocate for yourself, nobody will. And we have to advocate for ourselves. But I think unlike some outlets consistently sending you fundraising emails, which I don't do that because I find it annoying, once in a while, but not all the time. If we don't advocate, the lights go off. I mean, it's as simple as that. So I want to show you one more clip from Chicago, and then we'll switch to Epstein quickly. This I found interesting. This was a former Trump voter who has now shifted. You interviewed him. I've come across some Trump voters that have kind of seen the light. I believe this is like the second or third you've come across recently. Show us.
Well, it's very simple and stuff like that. When you see them recruiting the federal government when they say they need to protect a federal building, but going out onto the streets to yank people off the streets, it stops becoming about the people and becoming about authoritism. You know what I mean? We're like, okay, these people right here are our enemy. We're labeling them as our enemy, but they haven't really done anything wrong, but other than crossing a border that we made up. This is the invisible border right here. You know what I mean? None of us own it. You know what I mean? Everybody here is an immigrant. You know what I mean? It's not like it's set in stone and stuff like that you can't travel around the world just because one nation owns it. It's a ridiculous notion. You know what I mean? It's a ridiculous notion.
I should have set that up probably a little bit. I mean, that was him. I had asked him after he told me that he was a Trump supporter. I asked him to explain how he went from Trump supporter to being somebody who's protesting on the front lines against the Trump administration's marquee policy, its immigration agenda. And there he laid out, I mean, just how he sounds, for a MAGA voter, he sounds somebody who's just like one step removed from being an anarchist, talking about, nation states are essentially, made up and borders shouldn't matter, at least not to the extent that we make them matter, and certainly shouldn't be a crime worthy of separating families over. And I think that goes to what we were talking about earlier about the need to identify some group, in this case, brown people, to be an enemy to divide the working class against each other on, because it worked, right? I mean, it worked in this past election, but this guy still, like, he doesn't, to me, sound like somebody who is completely lost to the other side, to Democrats, if somebody would speak to his worldview and concerns about economic issues, which is the other thing he talked about in our interview. That's not something that's necessarily out of reach.
But you also have to remember, and again, I don't want to do a false equivalency because clearly there's a difference between the Democrats and the Republicans right now. With that said, not everyone who voted for Trump is MAGA. He got a shit ton of the independents. Why? Because we had an opposition party that their economic proposal was the opportunity economy. That's what Kamala Harris was pitching. I knew she was going to lose because a month before the election, I was on the ground in Michigan, Pennsylvania, but I was seeing billboards. Kamala Harris believes in increasing the minimum wage. To what? She didn't even give a number. There were billboards. Kamala Harris believes in so. It was all bullshit. There was no actual bold. Basically what neoliberalism is and what the Democratic Party has been doing for the last 40 to 50 years, is offering a series of Band-Aids for a gaping economic gunshot wound. That's basically, so if somebody offers you a Band-Aid when you're bleeding out, you might look elsewhere. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but that's what comes to mind. So there's so many people that just, I don't like Trump, but whatever. Prices were lower under him. Of course, there were extenuating circumstances why prices went up, but people just remembered prices went down. They didn't vote for him, thinking, oh, yeah, let's go terrorize brown people. Now, there is a subset of people in MAGA that are all about that. But I would say the majority is not about that. And there are more Trump voters. And I even saw them out when I was covering protests outside Tesla a couple months ago. No kings kind of things. So there are people kind of seeing the light. Not enough people. But this would be the opportunity now for the Democratic Party, if they want to actually be something more than just fighting fascism. How you win elections and keep winning elections is by offering not just, hey, the other guy's a fascist, take the lesser of two evils, but by offering bold solutions and relief. I want to play one more clip. And again, thank you to all you signing up. Here's one more, JT in Chicago.
And anybody who is in that building and has seen what they do is complicit and has no humanity and no conscience left. Because I don't give a shit what you tell yourself at night. If you can see how those people are being treated less than human, you're not human. And I'll tell you something else. We treat convicted murderers and pedophiles better than those people in there who have not been charged with any crime at all. They don't charge them with anything. And then it's up to them to get out of the system, to pay the money, to go to the courts. Everything they say is law, and then you got to get out. It's unconscionable. And the reason that they do it is so they can get their deportation numbers, so that Trump can put them up and say that he did something better than Obama.
Hey, JT, let me ask you, because you're a recovering corporate news reporter.
Yeah.
You were a local reporter in Wisconsin before you came here. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see those type of interviews uncut and just like, would you see that on the local news in Wisconsin?
No, this is something that I told John about over and over in our car rides around Chicago. It's just how much more freeing it was to be able to tell stories here at Status Coup, because I can just let, if I want to there, like Jordan tasked me with cutting up a lot of these like clips for today's broadcast. I didn't have to worry about confining myself to one 12-second soundbite that would air in just a 90-second story. If I wanted to include as much context as I thought was needed for this story, I had the flexibility to do that here. So to answer your question, no, Jordan.
But it's not just that they have to cut it down for commercial time and all that. They don't want certain messages out there. They don't want certain voices out there. That's just the reality. I worked in local news. I worked in national news. They kind of want to go up to a certain line, but they're not looking to like show like the real Rough Riders.
I mean, I could do a whole live stream with you just on like the way that corporate media is set up to basically, tamp down any sort of real populist or, like real stories that affect most people. But I mean, there is a whole machine, there are whole industries set up just to cater to corporate media and getting out corporate lines and corporate messaging and pro-police messaging, all of these things. I mean, there have been books written on the subject. I won't bore us with it now, but yeah, I mean, it is, if you want to go out and tell a story about how great the police are and how dangerous it is to live in your community, man, oh man, is that easy to do. But if you want to tell a story about the striking Starbucks workers down the street who just want to earn a decent living as they scald themselves for pennies a day, that's a hell of a lot harder to get past management and to get past every other hurdle that exists.
And in the 5 minutes I have left, because I have 2 screaming children upstairs, she did mention pedophile, so that's a good segue. Epstein is obviously all the rage right now. Obviously, we only have so much bandwidth. We can't cover it as in depth as I would like to. But boy, if it smells like a cover-up, this is just very black and white. What's going on here? I want to show you Attorney General Pam Bondi, who her and Trump's other lackey, Kash Patel, a couple months ago said that there's nothing to see here. Epstein in our investigation, it didn't point to any other co-conspirators. Definitely singing a very different tune, one that made no sense today. Let's take a look.
Chris, I'm just out from a news conference about an unrelated matter, and Pam Bondi was peppered with questions about the Epstein matter. She said she would follow the law, but she didn't answer specific questions about carve-outs and exceptions in this bill. One important question she was asked is, what has changed from the time the Justice Department said there was no cause to further investigate any individuals in the Epstein matter? And now, of course, they've announced new investigations. And here's her answer, Chris.
The DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information that new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards because we've printed them for millions of small businesses.
My first question is who will be playing her on Saturday Night Live this week? Secondly, what sharp object is up Kash Patel's behind? Because he didn't look so comfortable there.
I think that is, I mean, that's just his normal face, isn't it? Based on his headshots that he has taken for the FBI. I think that's Kash having a good day, Jordan.
So information is what changed. I would suggest some of that information implies the president of the United States was either involved or knew about a global sex trafficking ring. And you have Trump's other sycophant, Mike Johnson, now implying we need to be careful about what we release, citing national security.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 5, national security concerns, okay? The discharge requires the Attorney General to release within 30 days, quote, classified information to the maximum extent possible. This ignores the principle that declassification should always rest, and always has rested, with the agency that originated the intelligence. Why? So that they can protect their critical sources and methods. It is incredibly dangerous to demand that officials or employees of the DOJ declassify materials that originated in other agencies and intelligence agencies. I could go on. I won't.
So is he acknowledging that Epstein worked for Israel? I can't really think of what national security is. Usually just a buzzword and a cloak for government secrets. So we just say national security sources and methods.
Yeah.
But
it seems like he's just acknowledging any sort of loophole that will give the Trump administration even the slightest degree of cover not to release these files, at least certainly not the ones that are damaging to the president. I suppose it is a matter of national security if the president is compromised in any sort of way, or if, you know, somebody who was close with the president is acknowledged to be some sort of asset for a foreign government, as an outlet like DropSite has reported. But I mean, I've been skeptical. Yeah, absolutely. Release the Epstein files, like sign on to the discharge petition. Fully supportive of all of that. I've been very skeptical about what we're actually going to get out of this process in terms of real meaningful information, just because that national security carve out was present in that bill. And that is just such carte blanche for the government to withhold as many secrets as it wants to.
listen, to be clear, I'm a journalist, so I want to be very clear when I'm just speculating. I have no evidence for what I'm about to say. But my spidey sense tells me, and I, knowing Donald Trump enough because I grew up in New York, Donald Trump has no shame. He would not be trying to hide files because it might show that he knew of a child sex trafficking ring. That's not necessarily a crime, even though morally you should have reported it. I'm not sure it would be a crime if he was aware that Epstein, there was trading of these girls. Isn't that? Maybe it is a crime. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think Donald Trump necessarily would be trying to hide that he knew about it, because Donald Trump has known about a lot of horrible things. And he has no shame. I mean, he's cheated on all his wives. He's money laundered. He's been involved with the mafia. This is all out there, public record. I also don't know if Donald Trump would necessarily be trying to hide if there were photos of underage girls sitting on his lap per se, because he could just say, well, I didn't know how old they were. And, it was just kind of like having fun, right? Maybe there's some type of videos, because Epstein apparently had cameras everywhere, of Trump actually involved in illicit behavior. That would be a crime. But you also have to remember, Jeffrey Epstein was killed under the Trump presidency in 2019. Soon after he was arrested. Jeffrey Epstein was killed under the Trump presidency soon after he was arrested, went through back channels. He was huffing and puffing that I want a deal or I want something. And he had a file of a whole lot of people that he could blackmail, potentially involving Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein was killed himself months after Donald Trump met with Prince Andrew, who was implicated in all of this. Again, this is all conjecture, speculation, no evidence, but Donald Trump's not feverishly trying to hide files if it just shows poor ethics or poor judgment or, oh, I didn't check her ID. He would be trying, I think, to hide something if it showed clear criminal activity from him, maybe his children, something that he can't get out of. That happened not while he was president, since the Supreme Court has given him an indefinite get-out-of-jail-free card, but something that happened when he was not president. So I would just venture to say it's got to be really fucking bad if not only Trump is trying to hide it, but all these people around him are trying to hide it, because maybe they think if it got out, this would be bad for America to have their president implied. But honestly, I have to agree with you. Donald Trump infamously, this has been reported, he was more upset that Nixon didn't burn the tapes than what Nixon actually did. He kept saying, oh, Nixon was a sucker because he should have burned the tapes. If anyone thinks it would be beyond Donald Trump and his, criminal apparatus there to lose files, toss files, burn files, who's going to hold him accountable? The Supreme Court, that it says he can't be held accountable for anything in office, which I would assume applies to those around him who he could just pardon. And he's already pardoned and let off a bunch of crooks. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't think Donald Trump's trying to hide or bury, that he was around underage girls, which is sick, but not a crime. I think he's trying to hide something that might be a little bit more sinister, even potentially deadly. Could be wrong. The plot thickens. I do have to go because my kids are crying. JT, quick, tell people what you're working on nowadays.
Oh boy, so much. So we're continuing to follow everything that is happening down in Chicago and a lot of the aftermath of what it looks like after a city has been devastated by a federal occupation the way it is. So we've got reports coming out about some of the latest developments in what's been happening in the Broadview ICE detention facility. We made brief reference to it there during the live stream here about that there's only 4 people reportedly being held, but that does not begin to factor in a lot of the pain that has been caused. It might sound like reason to rejoice that only 4 people are being held inside of this public black site. Well, a lot of those people were either deported or were shipped out of state into other holding facilities. So we've got lots of reporting on that front to come. I've got an interview with the ACLU of Illinois that will be coming out shortly about the conditions inside that Broadview ICE detention facility and where their lawsuit over those conditions goes now in a post-Trump world, or in a post-Trump occupation world. So those are the things, continue to be on the ground here. It's what I really enjoyed about Status Coup before I came to work here, is the way that you would get on a story and stay on a story. You don't just because the mainstream media leaves, because a lot of the media attention or a lot of the biggest, sexiest things are done, does not mean that the story is over, that the pain and the suffering is over. And those are stories that still deserve to be told. And that's what I'm really excited about working here now, Jordan, is that we get the opportunity to continue to stay with this and tell the full story, the full context, and stay with these communities as they continue to pick up the pieces and prepare for the Trump administration to come back.
Well said. And we will do a whole stream giving your bio and talking shit on corporate media, which you and I could probably do for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. Unfortunately, I got to go. Thank you to all the new members. I appreciate it. Thank you, JT. We're going to be live in a little over an hour, and this feed is going to go right to our live stream. So once this ends, it should go straight to our live stream. So you'll be in the waiting room there. John Farina is going to be live on the ground for continuing protests in Charlotte. Again, who else is doing this? You see the bags? StatusCoup.com/join. John is out there doing God's work away from his daughter. He's been on the ground more or less for 2 months. We need you, folks. Think about it. What do you spend $5 on a month? We have other plans, $10 a month, $20 a month, but you could support us for as low as $5 a month, 16 cents a day. There's got to be something that you don't really need that you could cancel. Don't cancel like your medication or anything like that. But things you might not need or might be more of like a luxury. Journalism is a necessity. Actual journalism, not the bullshit you see from corporate media. StatusCoup.com/join. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a little over an hour from Charlotte. Have a good one.